Hi, and welcome back to SPWK TV. I'm Jomar from the Brand Leadership Community. This episode, we're going to be looking at personalization and more to that hyper-personalization, hopefully with the use of things like data, MarTech and AI. And with me, I have today Astrid and Madsen. Welcome to the show. You have, Astrid, you've had your session today, and was it today? It was
Monday, actually.
Monday, yeah.
Yes.
So, but I remember I actually heard good things about it recently. So you've obviously resonated with the audience. So
great.
That's good to hear. Mm-hmm. And Madsen, this year you are purely attending.
I am attending and learning. Yes.
And attending and learning as you do, but you still have much knowledge to share. So today we're talking about hyper-personalization. But let's start with the basics of personalization. Can we start with what this is such a big topic these days, especially in a lot of our events? What is personalization in your world?
Well, I think that basically personalization is any kind of logic that ties together an individual with a piece of content. And it doesn't have to be just a one-to-one. So it doesn't have to be a segment of one. I believe that any type of segmentation is really a type of personalization. And the key element is to ensure that there's a dynamic nature between behavior or traits of the user and what you offer them.
Yeah. And Madsen, you've worked in the grocery side with online groceries. Do you have a different kind of edge or style of personalization?
I think it's about being relevant, because you have so little space, even if it's on site, so on any e-commerce platform, not only online groceries. And you have a fraction of time with your users when they browse around the internet and hopefully see any of your online banners or DCO banners, whatever it is that they interact with. And just upping that relevance scale with personalization, tying that user data with relevancy. I think that's at least the main goal and the main reason of doing personalization.
Yeah, and I suppose from a brand's point of view, we're looking at some kind of conversion, right? Or whether it's a transaction or whether it's going to the next page. Tell me a bit about, with your experience, Astrid, what kind of things do we need to consider when it comes to data maturity within a larger organization, when it comes to a personalization strategy? Or
I think it depends on also the goal of the personalization. You can have very niche or very situation-oriented types of personalization that I think are accessible to any brand. But then I think there are also bigger carrots to chase. And currently at TV2 Denmark, where I'm at, we are chasing the concept of the customer-oriented ecosystem. So ensuring that actually the customer journey across all the different parts of the products are tied together. And for that to actually succeed, you need many different elements: infrastructure, IDs on people, consent. All of these things need to tie together in order to then increase the relevance, as Madsen mentions, in every specific touch point.
And for you, Madsen, with your background with, I think we were talking earlier about recommendation engines. I mean, what are some of the critical things that a brand needs to look at to set up a good recommendation engine for their e-commerce experience?
I think the first gain really for using recommendation engines for any e-commerce store, and especially the new ones that just started out, is the ability to tie products together. I've been programming and operating and working around e-commerce stores in around 15 years. So even before these recommendation engines, we, or the team basically, and maybe sometimes even the vendors that sold us the product, were asked to manually sit and tie products together. The other people have also bought and you might be interested in these products, to find that relevance between products. But a simple Google search on recommendation engines now, and maybe a little training period as well, because the algorithm has to learn between what products are viewed together, what products are in the basket together, and what products are checked out together in order to find that relevancy. And that's not even personalization, that's just being relevant. Then if you add in the purchases of those products as well, you can basically, let's say you have an order of 3 items or 5 items. These 3 items might look like a cluster or a segment of some users that bought even more than those 3 items, but also the 3 items. So the algorithm will take that outcome or that output of the extra products and try to serve it to those users to see and learn from those users if they convert or not. So just to begin with, a simple match between products in how they are procured together, I think that's a really nice gain for any organization.
And one of the things we did agree on was I think you also had some questions for Astrid as well. So this is a 3-way discussion if we throw the format around a bit. But I will, before you jump in with the question, the term hyper-personalization, and this is actually one of the first times, probably the first time I heard it, but what are the elements that we're looking at in terms of what is hyper-personalization and what does an organization or a brand need to do to get to that point of hyper-personalization for their audience or customers?
I think that it's a difficult thing to achieve for most brands, because one of the elements in it is actually to have a sufficiently rich catalog to let people respond to. Because as I see it, hyper-personalization is about being able to interpret the activity of your users to elicit a wider range of desires and interests in that group. And in order to elicit that, you need to be able to show them different things. So if your store or brand only has a couple of things, that's not going to happen, so then it's not relevant. The point is that as soon as you begin to have an ability to track interaction at a way more nuanced level, suddenly you can discover preferences and interests in your user base that are way more specific and nuanced. And then use those to give people a recommendation that is even more impactful. But I think that it's one of the things where we need to look at also some of the new platforms that have gained a lot of power and popularity, and try to figure out what are the good elements of those platforms that big brands should try to adopt. And also, what does it mean for the user expectancy? So users that interface with algorithms that are like this, they increase their expectancy of being served something that is, not even relevant, but actually shows them something about themselves that they didn't know before.
And are we talking a bit of the AI magic here in terms of coming up with that kind of surprised element?
Yes, absolutely, because it depends on a very clever algorithm, and it depends on being able to understand in a rich way the content as well as the behavior. And I think all of us that are involved in creating experiences need to think about how do we allow people to interact with our products in a way which actually lets people show us what they like, what they don't like, how they like it. So enhancing our products to allow bigger net of signals to be captured is one thing we need to do.
What kind of signals are we talking about here in terms of capturing this extra data?
Well, it's of course there's all the things that we already know. So views, for instance, of a piece of content. And here everybody with a web page needs to go beyond a page view because each page has different things on it. But then it's also interacting with the items. So if you don't have any ability to interact, then you need to think about creating it.
Right.
And there's lots of brands that would have the option for you to interact with it socially.
Yeah.
Right? And that whole thing of going into, if you've got clothing items, then you can go into reviews and see what people say, click on the images. Maybe you can like the other people's images. So it's that rabbit hole of being able to interact with the product in many different ways that gives us these signals.
And this is beyond the analyst's role, right? This is something that the marketing manager or the product manager needs to add in. Your thoughts, Martin? I can see
I think for the majority of regarding tracking of user interactions, you can use your standard or custom tracking that you have sitting in Google Analytics. And it doesn't really matter if you collect all of the data. I think these recommendation, my vision of it is that these recommendation engines, they can live without 5 or 10% of the data. It doesn't really matter for them. They will find the missing links. That's the whole purpose of them, to connect the dots. So any page views, any product detail view, any add to cart, your usual e-commerce suspects regarding events would qualify for a great recommendation engine training data set. But about that catalogue, I really think that's the most important thing, to have the tags, have the product tags, and sometimes you need 100. You really need a lot of tags, depending on how complex the product is. And especially, I don't know if you noticed when you upload videos to YouTube, it actually loops with an algorithm through the video, and then auto tags that some of your just uploaded video. I think that's also why they have a bit of processing time when you upload videos as well. So these, you could say these rich media ways of doing it, that's really interesting for me. It's something I never worked with before. But definitely you need tags, right? You need pricing. Maybe you need seasonality, that you're only selling this product for Christmas, because how would the algorithm know that it's Christmas? Elsewise. Yeah.
So in setting up those tags and algorithms, I mean, who sits with that role? Is that something the analyst does, something the product manager does, the brand manager, or is it a collective effort? Should there be workshops set up? Where should it come from? Because I think, when it comes to defining these variables, it may not be in the analyst's viewpoint. They may not understand the full product. So what kind of relationship should, from a data side to a product side, should there be?
Yeah, well, that's one of the tricky things about going forward on the personalization journey, which is that you need to combine both the commercial efforts, so all the acquisition strategy and the activities you have there, with how the product is then built, so the experience part, also what products you really have, because you might discover that you've got gaps that you need to fill. And then finally also how the tracking plays into that. And then on the IT side, all of the infrastructure and technology that supports it. So I think that it has to be a very collaborative effort. And you need to have clever people in all of these different branches sitting together and doing a dynamic calibration of these things in order to make it actually work together.
There's a purpose of tracking as well. So actually, the Google Analytics dataset is amazing for any recommendation engine, because usually it's the commercial team or the marketing data team that are pretty good at actually identifying the right events that makes commercial value. And these algorithms, they often come with a commercial output. They are a replacement for the McDonald's cross-site selling. Do you want fries to go with that, or the upselling? Do you want?
Supersize?
Exactly.
Supersize me.
So that's really what they're good at, and sometimes they can be very positive in reminding me at checkout, especially in grocery stores or in clothing brands as well, that do you want shoes with those, or do you want socks with those? Or hey, we can see your cart is not containing milk. Milk is often in any family quite needed product, right? In every basket. So you might want to remind them about that and automate that process as well. Because if there's already milk in the cart, then the engine needs to know, right? So it won't recommend you milk when you already have, I don't know, 6 liters of milk in the cart. So I do think it's a collaboration between IT and the commercial data team as well. I've seen it implemented in many ways, but the best ways is definitely when there's a collab between the IT dev team and the commercial data team, using, for example, Google Analytics data, but also changing the actual cookie banner or whatever justified for the use of that data. Because when you're not only looking at the data in Google Analytics anymore, and you use it as in a recommendation engine, you're actually doing what lawyers often like to call profiling. So it's profiling the users with other users, and it often qualifies for an update of the purpose of tracking those users.
Yeah, so a better prediction of...
Yeah. It leads me to another aspect, which is that for a long time we've had digital analytics alongside the data that lives inside a product. And I actually think that we're at a time where we need to think about how to make these different ecosystems work together. Because right now there's a lot of richness inside the marketing data, which ought to live inside product also. But I also want to say something else, which is that this hyper-personalization opportunities are also perhaps challenges for some brands, because for most big brands that have a lot of ability to scale different types of products, they might not have the scale to do unique products that have a short selling cycle. Whereas small companies, or even like one-person companies, they have that opportunity. And I think they have a better chance in the current market with the current platforms to locate the people that might be interested in particularly the type of niche product that you can make yourself at home. And suddenly that can become a challenge for big brands, because if I as a consumer go on some of these platforms and I'm recommended things that are so relevant to me and I'm not even searching for it, maybe I don't even care who's making it. Maybe I don't care about the brand. I'm just buying the thing because it's just right for me.
Yeah.
And we also were discussing the whole opening up of a new market, this mid-range, the Etsy kind of small company, individual, potentially making a decent living out of...
Yeah, so like, for instance, somebody who's a nail technician, if they wanted to do advertising on the traditional way, it would be very difficult for them to get up a local shop because there's so many others, and there's bigger stores that have way bigger budgets to corner that market, right? It's not very feasible. But if they have a specialization, maybe they make nails for queer people. Maybe they are specialized in very big nails. They could have some corner of the market. And through these algorithms, suddenly they locate their audience. And they do it without perhaps doing any advertising, other than creating content which speaks to these people.
Because I mean, now we're seeing like these AI tools like ChatGPT, you know, sourcing or referencing the sources as well. So, so it looks like we are actually, you know, moving away from the search engine side of things. In the sense of technology and the future ahead, where do you see us going with personalization, hyper-personalization, and business, Martin?
I think we are in constant fight with the big media companies, the big tech vendor companies on the user's attention, right? And it seems like more and more on that open screen time, that active screen time on those mobile devices is spent with TikTok or Facebook and just to disturb that bit of a journey with some advertisement that's relevant and works out there. I think that's highly that's a way of winning again, because we need to be there. We need to be relevant. Otherwise, they'll just scroll past our advertisement. I don't think people actually hate advertisement. I think people hate bad advertisement.
Yeah, well, non-contextual advertising, absolutely.
Yeah, but I also want to say that it also matters when things become very entertaining and super relevant. It also matters once you've spent a half hour with any product. How do you feel once you've done that? Do you feel like you're in a better place than before? Or do you feel like you've wasted your life doing that? Yeah. Do you feel that it pushes you in a direction towards, you know, bigger productivity, calmness? Does it teach you something? And I think all of us as companies and brands need to think about, are we taking the time that people would like to give us? Yeah. Or are we taking more? Yeah. And what does that do to the long-term relationship? And I think that it's important for brands, like for instance TV2, to take a stand and decide, am I the type of company that you want to stay with? And how do I engineer that loyalty and respect the user? So I think that's one of the ways that all of us have to think about, you know, giving value to users.
Yeah.
Thank you. Astrid and Martin, Thanks for the insights. We could go on for a long time because
for sure.
this is a very interesting future ahead. Thanks for tuning in again for Super Week TV. More episodes to come. And don't forget, we've got a few more tonight as well. So stay tuned. Don't forget to follow on LinkedIn Super Week. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.